Hi y'all, it's Suzanne. Welcome to day 30 of Begin Your Yoga Journey. Today is another rest, reset, and journal practice session for us. Let's get started. During the prior 4 journal sessions, we've had various topics that I suggested you journal about. Week 1 was, why are you beginning this yoga journey? And what does the word begin mean to you? Week 2, I asked you to think about something that you've always wanted to start. Maybe you've started and stopped, or maybe you've never started. To think about the obstacles and challenges that you have to overcome, how you are going to overcome those, and then just to envision what success looks like. Week 3, I recommended that you journal about how you're feeling at the halfway mark. And last week, I simply asked you to review the first portion of the month and to journal about whether you are glad or not glad that you started this journey. Since we have 5 Sundays during January, today is really just a day to journal any thoughts you've got about what transpired earlier in the month. And I'm going to recap my journal thoughts for you. As I shared, I am not in the habit of journaling every day, and so this is a really good exercise for me to get me more into journaling, because it's such a great practice to capture your thoughts, to sit with yourself. It's really part of, or should be part of, your self-care regimen, which is why I'm working more to journal on a regular basis. So why begin? For me, this wasn't so much about beginning my yoga journey as it was helping others begin theirs. Yoga is a practice that I hold near and dear to my heart. It kept my heart whole during one of the most transitional phases of my personal journey. And when someone is ready, it's really just a tool and a way to open the heart and mind to any and everything that we want to accomplish. It's a way to learn to be in our body and be in our mind so that we can really move forward, so that we can progress and be happy. That's what yoga did for me, and why I wanted to begin was the same reason that I began teaching, to share the gift of yoga with others. Online yoga classes, it's something I've wanted to do for a long time. Pre-pandemic, I've wanted to teach online. My brother has this website, and I do a lot of videos with him, and he for the longest time has said to me, why don't you teach yoga online? Finally, I took his advice after watching him for many years, and I began teaching online. So that's why I began. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time, something I talked about but never quite got around to doing. For me, it was really just time to do it. So I said, hey, January 31st, I'm going to begin this Begin Your Yoga Journey program. I'm going to post a practice every day. I don't know that I realized how ambitious that statement was until I got into it. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So a lot of times I think that people don't begin because they have self-doubt, they have limiting beliefs, they have fear. Folks are so afraid of failure. You don't know if you're going to fail or if you're going to succeed until you begin. So it's that fear of the unknown. Let's turn that around and look at the fear of the unknown as a never knowing, because you don't know that you're going to succeed either. So let go of the self-doubt, let go of the limiting beliefs, and start. Just start the way you started this yoga journey. So those are my thoughts and follow up from the first question, why begin? So let's talk about what the word beginning means. When I think of beginning, that's exciting, it's new, it's refreshing, it's a fresh start. I think of opportunity and growth. That's what begin means to me. It's also a little bit daunting because we don't know what's going to happen when we begin. So you have to be able to embrace the fear, embrace the unknown, as I've mentioned previously. I really find the whole concept of beginning just exciting. Those are my thoughts on week 1. Let's move on to week 2. What's something that you've always wanted to start, maybe started and stopped, obstacles, challenges, how to overcome those, and what does success look like? Well, I'll start with this particular endeavor for me. So it's something I've always wanted to do. I was always afraid, well, nobody's going to watch. People are going to think it's silly. Am I really a good yoga instructor? What is it that I have to offer? So much gratitude to the students who have practiced with me over the years, to my personal network for their love and feedback in sharing what practicing with me has meant to them, because it gave me the courage to realize I am a pretty good yoga instructor. I may not be everybody's yoga instructor, but for those with whom I connect, I am a pretty good instructor. I was always just afraid. It was the self-doubt, it was the fear, but I started, and today is day 30 of day 31 that I committed to, and I'm glad that I started, which is actually a question that I ask later on. Nonetheless, I'm glad. So the obstacles and challenges were finding the time and fear. I believe in this life that anything we want to make a priority, that we are able to find the time for. So, I'll take this from a relationship perspective. Let's say you're seeing someone and they just can't seem to find the time to spend with you. Well, the reality is you're very simply not a priority. It hurts to make that realization, but it's true. And the same goes for other things in our lives. We're all pulled in so many different directions. We really have to schedule and make priorities. We have to determine who and what is important to us so that we're able to focus on those things. So this YouTube channel was something that I've always wanted to start. I had never started. I finally started, and day 31 is tomorrow. So I'm really excited that not only did I start, but I have all but met my initial commitment of 31 days of a Begin Your Yoga Journey program. And Ashtanga practice was something that I was always incredibly interested in, but really intimidated by the whole concept of Ashtanga yoga. And I shared previously that one of my favorite instructors was teaching Ashtanga, and she's always someone who made me feel empowered during a yoga practice, Erin. The fact that she was teaching Ashtanga made it an easy transition. It's a practice that I have grown to love and embrace. I'm so fortunate to have the opportunity to train with and to prepare to teach led classes in an Ashtanga studio here in Atlanta. So I'm super excited that I finally began Ashtanga, because it's become just a whole new evolution of my personal yoga practice. Sometimes the hardest part of our day when we think about exercising or practicing yoga is actually making it to the mat. So we begin that part of our day by actually making it to the mat. Whether you're tired or frustrated or don't feel like you can find the time, make it to the mat and begin your workout, begin your practice. Something else in my life that I struggled with for many years was ending a long-term relationship. I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it, but I never acted on it. When I finally acted on it, I began the end, but it was also the beginning of a whole new life. And I was petrified because I had spent so many years with one individual, and it was all I knew most of my adult life. I don't even know that I knew who I was without being this person's other half. I began to end it. It finally ended. But actually pulling the trigger, saying it's done, saying we can't do this anymore. This yoga journey for me was part of the beginning of that, because I invested my time into a yoga practice that I used to spend with this individual. That ending, which led to a new beginning, just changed my life. It opened my heart. It made me realize that I was so much more than this individual led me to believe that I was over 20 years of conditioning. Let's see, what else? When I think about beginning, sometimes we have to ask for what we want. Sometimes we're not able to proceed without asking. And sometimes that first step of beginning is just asking. And this also ties back to fear. We're afraid to ask for what we want because we don't know what the response is going to be. Even though you don't know what the response is going to be, you're never going to have it unless you actually ask for it. Ask for the promotion. Ask for the raise. Ask someone to spend time with you. Ask, because you don't know what the end result is. You don't know what you're going to begin in some cases unless you ask. What does success look like? I'm going to tie that question back to my Begin Your Yoga Journey program. Success was completing January. It was getting all the videos out there and done in the time frame that I committed to doing, which was 7 a.m. each day. After tomorrow, there's one day left, and I think that I will successfully complete that. Success following that is really building a subscriber base, because I would love to build a global community where we share a practice together. So I'm envisioning that now as part of my success with my Suzanne Adams Yoga YouTube channel. Continued success ties to a lot of learnings that I have had over this last month. Oh my goodness, learning to edit videos, playing in Photoshop, dealing with the audio issues and learning how to use a mic, and then breaking the first mic that I had before I trained myself on how to use the other mic that I had, which is a really great Rode Wireless Go 2 mic. But there was a lot of learning. And so part of success is getting past the learning curve and continuing to grow. Anytime we're learning and growing, there's success, even if we experience a little bit of failure along the way. So that sums up my thoughts on what I asked you all to journal about during week 2. Moving on to week 3. How are you feeling at the halfway mark? We talked about, again, how a habit takes about 66 days on average to form. And I asked if you all felt like you were building a habit of journaling, building a habit of practicing yoga daily. So how am I feeling at the halfway mark? I was a little bit overwhelmed. I didn't realize what I had signed up for. I teach multiple yoga classes weekly in studio, and I prepare for them, and I work on a playlist, and I know how I'm going to teach my peak poses, and I know how to cater to the practitioners who come. But this online thing, it's a whole different world. So I'm talking to an audience that I can't see. I film, and then I edit, and then upload, and there's the thumbnail. And a lot of it took a lot more time than I realized it was going to take. I film a lot of videos for my brother's YouTube channel, which follows this music festival called Eurovision. I get to film the video and then pass it on to an editing team, and they upload it. And one of the first things I said to him after I began editing my own videos here was, oh my gosh, I promise that I will never, ever, ever do another video that's out of order or where I just ramble. I don't know that I've met my promise of not doing that, because sometimes I do ramble and sometimes I do get out of order. But I never realized what went into editing. So for me at the halfway mark, I was just a little bit overwhelmed, and I was like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to finish this month out? But with anything, we become more proficient the more we do things. I will actually do a separate video on what I learned and all of the different crazy bloopers I experienced, some of which you have seen and heard. So that's how I was feeling at the halfway mark. And just at the halfway mark, and I mentioned this in a prior video, a colleague and friend of mine who is a high-level executive with a division of Kroger, she reached out and she shared that she had been doing these videos. She shared that her husband had joined her, and she's someone who is just a badass in the professional world and someone who I immensely admire and respect. But she also exercises a lot, and she's very strong, and she's very committed to anything that she does. She shared that she had always been intimidated to start a yoga practice, which I found so interesting, because this is not someone who I ever think of being intimidated to do anything. And we'd had multiple conversations over the years about yoga, and I so wish that she had shared that with me before, because on one of my trips to visit with her, I would have gone to a yoga class with her so that she could have overcome it sooner. But just at that halfway mark, when I was a little bit discouraged, wondering how I was ever going to finish, someone I admire and respect said, "Thank you" to me. I am enjoying this and I am sharing it with someone else. And that gave me the energy that I needed to continue, because it let me know that I was making a difference. And if I'm making a difference, not just with this person, I'm making a difference with others. The other thing that happened right at the halfway mark was I broke my first mic. So I bought a really inexpensive mic that I was using, and it made a difference, but I broke it. And I had purchased the Rode Wireless Go 2, but I hadn't sat down yet to figure out how to use it. And then when I did sit down to figure out how to use it, there were other things, cables, that I needed to order, and they were not readily accessible anywhere. So I actually had to order them. And so I went a couple of days where I had audio issues, and I actually moved from my gym yoga studio up into the master bedroom, because I felt like that would be a quieter space in which to film. It was. So that's how I was feeling at when we did our third journaling session right at the halfway mark. Let's move on to our fourth journaling session. I simply asked you to review how you were feeling at this point during the month. I asked you if you were glad that you started, and that could obviously be a yes or a no. So for those of you who have stuck with me throughout the month, I hope that you're glad you started. I hope that being able to log in with a familiar face and take different class formats has, one, introduced you to different class formats, but I hope it's given you a little bit of incentive to sit down and do it, and that you're glad. I hope that those of you who are logging in and taking these classes are glad that you started. I hope that you're glad that you're able to hop on YouTube, see a familiar face and practice, to practice different formats. If you're not glad, I would wonder if maybe you're being a little too hard on yourself. Are you beating yourself up because maybe you missed a journaling exercise, or maybe you didn't make it to your mat every day? So, my guidance there, don't be so darn hard on yourself. It takes, again, 66 days to form a new habit. Life happens. I did say earlier that you make anything a priority that you want to, but there are some days that are really just more of a struggle than others. There are some days where maybe you don't want to get out of bed. Maybe you don't feel well. Maybe a whole new project got thrown on your plate at work and you're just not sure where you're going to find the time to do anything. So when that happens, maybe logging into YouTube and taking a YouTube class isn't the right move for you. Maybe it's simply taking a moment to breathe, to jot down your thoughts if you can, and just to get up and move. If you're getting up and moving every day, then I would say that you are continuing with this journey, even if you skip a practice. But don't beat yourself up. Don't be so hard on yourself. We are often our own worst critics. Stop. Let's focus a little more on self-love. After our fourth journaling session, I really felt like I was on the home stretch. I knew that I was going to be able to do this. I knew I was going to be able to get it done. I was still hearing words of encouragement. I still am hearing words of encouragement from you. And that gives me, again, the energy to keep moving. So here we are. We have reached our fifth journaling session together, and this is really my recap of journaling. And this is really just my recap on journaling. I provided a recap of how I felt about each of my journal entries on the topic of gratitude a while back. And so this is very similar to that. I'm journaling each week, sometimes a little more often. Then I'm going back and looking at my thoughts and sharing them in the hopes that it gives you some food for thought, in the hopes that it helps you to continue with your journaling practice. So start, begin, whatever it is that pulls at your heartstrings, whatever it is that fuels your passion, whatever it is that you feel like you want to go out and do, take a moment, come up with a plan, and start. Put it on a vision board. Talk to your friends. Get guidance. Do some research. But start the process so that you can actually begin. Believe in yourself. A friend of mine, I had been working on a big project at work that came to fruition, and one of my close girlfriends says, "You did not talk about that while it was going on." She said, "I was so excited for you when you shared it, but you didn't talk about it." And there are times when I'm working on something and I'm just chugging away, doing my own thing, not talking about it. Other times, especially when we're treading in territory that we don't know, it might help to talk to people we trust, people whose guidance we know is going to at least point us in the right direction. So when it comes to some of my projects in corporate America, I don't need to talk about those. I very simply need to get them done. But this was a project that is really from my heart to yours. It's something I had wanted to do for a long time. And I did chat with my network about how to make it happen. And I did get a lot of guidance from my brother and my cousin, because I am treading in territory that I don't know a whole lot about. So when you've got those experts who are willing to share their guidance, go to them and trust your network who knows you to help also. So your passion, what pulls at your heartstrings, if there's something you want to do there, you can't fail, because passion, that is a great foundation on which to build. And if you want to do something that's going to help others, oh my goodness, I really don't think you can fail when you're helping others. I shared with you how yoga helped to keep my heart whole. And over the years, as I've talked to my students and they've shared their stories, I know it also helps to keep their heart whole and it keeps them grounded. And so for me, because yoga is something that I'm so passionate about, all of the benefits for the body and the mind, and the fact that I'm able to share that gift and help others, it really just made sense. Let go of fear. Instead of being afraid of what you don't know, be afraid of what you're not going to find out if you don't start. Take that first step and start. Envision your success and make it happen. As I was thinking or preparing for this chat earlier, I was thinking about the individuals out there who have started multiple businesses, multiple endeavors, and failed. And so if you go and you do research on Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Michael Bloomberg, and you look at their history, there were things they did that were not successful before they finally reached that end game and built what was inevitably successful, for which they will always be known. So don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to begin. That's really all I have to share about my journaling over the last month with you. I hope that you are beginning to create a practice of journaling. I hope that you're enjoying a regular yoga practice. As this month comes to a close, I've been working on the February schedule. Not a lot to share on that yet. I'm still formulating my thoughts, but I'm almost there. February is right around the corner. So during the month of February, we're going to focus on relationships. I know that we are going to spend week 1 focusing on the relationship that we have with ourselves. Just a note here, the way we treat ourselves sets the bar for how others are going to treat us. So treat yourself well. So for the month of February, haven't figured out exactly what I'm doing. I will be releasing a schedule and I will be continuing because this is something that I have immensely enjoyed. I really feel that I have created a new habit. I'm learning new skills and it's just something that has been incredibly meaningful to me. I hope it's been meaningful to you also. So let's take a moment and just breathe. You can place your feet firmly on the earth, or maybe you want to sit and pull the flesh out from around your bum and thighs so that your sits bones are rooted. Close the eyes. Begin to inhale and exhale through the nose. Gently constrict the back of the throat so that your breath begins to create an ocean-like sound. I am strong. I am committed. I finish what I start. I am strong. I am committed. I finish what I start. I am strong. I am committed. I finish what I start. I began this yoga journey because enter your why. Envision your success. I am strong. I am committed. I finish what I start. Gently flutter the eyes open. Bring the hands to heart center. Thank you for sharing another journaling practice with me. I am so humbled that you allow me to help guide you through your yoga journey. So much gratitude, so much love. Thank you. Namaste. I really can't thank you enough for sharing your time and energy with me. I will see you tomorrow for the last day of Begin Your Yoga Journey. This 31-day program will conclude with a strong vinyasa flow to close out the month before we move into the next month. Thank you. Bye.